Good morning, sir. It's been like half an hour since I've been trying to record this. Let's hope that this time I can finish. Okay. So, let me tell you what we are going to make first. We'll be trying to recreate this type of the leaves falling, not the complete scene. I might try to make the complete scene, but these types of leaf falling will be a goal for today. So, the two methods are, as you can guess, first one is the simple modeling method where we deform the leaf and give it a texture that we want, and another is the shading method, that is we just project a texture onto it and try to modify the texture to look good as for our needs, we can say. So the texture that I'll be using is this one that I have over on my desktop. Where it is, yes, this one. We'll be using this texture. You can practically use any texture as long as it has some kind of difference between its background and the foreground. You'll understand once we start. So let's first of all bring in the image. Okay, so that is the texture that we are going to use. First of all, Control T to add a texture coordinate and a mapping node, and then we'll connect it to the base color, and also change the scale to the original scale, that is 1920 by 1080. Okay, so what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the leaf and creating a mask, like making the leaf part, this red part, all white and this part all black. That would create a mask that we can use to add a transparent and a BSDF alongside each other. You'll understand as we go forward. So this one works in cycles, and it looks better in cycles actually because of the way this works. So for you, first of all you need to go to materials, this materials tab, and go to the blend mode option and select alpha blend. You can also select alpha hash, but it is more detailed, so it creates like stress on your CPU, so it is better to use alpha blend in this situation. And for the shadow mode, you can either set it to opaque or set it to none. So let's transparent. Okay, the shortcut I used there was Control Shift and drag. It will create a mix shader as it did here. We don't need it as we already have one. So you can see that the transparency works, but not as we intend it to. We need it to separate the leaf out. So we can just use the same image that we were using, and we need to set it to non-color data. Before setting it to non-color data, you need to make sure that you have clicked on this 2 on either of the nodes, because then it would make a copy of this same image. And why we need to make a copy is because if we set without making a copy, if we set this to non-color data, it would be followed by this image texture too. So it would also be set to non-color data, and it doesn't look good. That's the main point of it, that it doesn't look good. Okay, so let's first convert it to black and white using a color ramp and not using the alpha. You need to be sure, because when we use the alpha of image texture or the color ramp, both of these do not take alpha inputs for some reason and would give the single white output. So we need to insert the color into the color and then color into anything else. Okay, so as of now you can see that when we turn it to black and white, we can see many areas that are very similar to each other. So if we were to cramp this color ramp to separate out our texture, our leaf will also get disappeared, if it's even a word, disappeared. So So basically what we need to do is we need to separate out this leaf first by making it darker. How we make it darker? By increasing its saturation. And to do that, what we use is hue and saturation node. Okay, so we'll be setting the hue to 2. In this way, this leaf will turn into a blue leaf and the background will go blue, and the value to 2 or maybe even 1 will work. And set the color ramp to constant. Then go to the color ramp and drag until you are able to see the leaf. You just need to worry about the leaf right now because the hand will be removing it later in the process. For right now we need to just worry about the leaf. Okay, so we can see the leaf right now, and let's bump up the value. Okay, that should work. Now, as to remove the hand, what we need to do is we need to have a gradient texture cutting this part into black. Like the upper part should, this is the line, assume a line, and this part should be white and this part should be black. So what it will do is if you multiply these two, both of the mask, like this image texture and the gradient texture that will be coming out below. So this color value is 0, black is 0, and white is 1. So when we'll multiply 0 with 1, it will give the value of 0. So this piece will disappear from here. It is better to do it practically than to explain it. So let's get to it. Gradient, gradient texture and linear. But as we can already see, there's a problem with our gradient texture, that is it is growing from the wrong direction. We need this black strip to be coming out from here. So what we need is we need to duplicate this mapping texture, Control Shift D, and we need this mapping texture to affect our gradient texture. Now we can just rotate it on the z-axis by 90 degrees and move it up a bit in the x-axis, I believe. No, y-axis. What the heck? Okay, in the x-axis it is. So around 6 you can see, around 5 it would be. Around 5, as you can see, it is in the middle, and we don't want this like smoothing effect. We want it to be constant cut, like a sharp cutoff. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate the color ramp from above, and it is already set to a constant offset. We just need to make it to the point where we need to cut off the hand. That sounds not very good, to cut off the hand. So we'll just multiply it and set the value completely to 1. As you can see, it is not giving the result we expected, as we wanted the hand to disappear, not the leaf. So what we did wrong was, this is the correct map, that is this part is white and this part is black. But for this RAM, what we did was this part turned into white. So all the parts that were white in these two images remained white, but all the parts that were black and had a white in the second image turned to black. So essentially what we need to do is we just need to flip the color ramp and just bring this over here. That should fix it, and it did fix it. So now we have a mask for our color ramp, sorry, for our leaf, that we can use to hide our hand. So now we'll be using this mask to drive our transparency, as you'll see in a moment. Work quickly. Okay, as you can see, now the background is gone and just the leaf is visible. that should be it. We can also use the same hue and saturation node and just press backspace to reset it, to change the colors a bit if needed. That is 5.2 maybe, sorry, 0.52 maybe. And you can play with it. I mean, I'm not very good at playing with colors, so we just need to bump up the saturation a bit. 1.1 should be fine, I guess, or even 1 just. And another thing we can do to make it look better is add a bump map. And color should go to height and not to strength, and normal should go to the normal of BSDF. And now we have a quite realistic looking leaf. Just turn the strength down a little, and there you have it. That's a very good leaf, I guess. To make it a little more procedural, or like making a copies, being able to make copies, what we can do is we can switch this mapping texture for a vector rotate node like this one, and set the angle to be around 90 degrees, and set it to 0.5, and then remove this one. It should work, I guess. Yes. So what it actually did was, the mapping originally uses only the vector, like it says that it is using a vector coordinates, but in reality it is only taking the vector coordinates from the texture coordinate node and turning them into scalar coordinates for easier usage, and then again outputting them as vectors. But for a vector rotate node, it takes in the vector coordinates and asks us to enter the actual vector coordinates and gives the texture actual vector coordinates. What this actuality does is, it lets us create a texture which we are able to modify. Like if I am if I were to manipulate a little, let's see. So in theory it should work now. Let's just delete this one and take it over here, and maybe these also. Will this work? Maybe not. Yeah, it won't. So now if you want to change it a bit, like if you wanted to have the hand not showing up, I can show you that too. Like if you move the texture in the y-axis, you can see that the hand still shows up. That is because we just fixed a problem for this stationary texture. not like the whole hand didn't get vanished or anything. So what we need to do is we just need to go into edit mode, select all, and press what U, unwrap, and it should unwrap over here. I don't know why it isn't unwrapping over here. Well, whatever. So to unwrapping we should have U, and press U, press U, and project from view. And over here, point 2. Now change it to UV editor to actually edit the scene, like edit the vertices of it, and just remove the hand from it. We could have actually done this, but I forgot about this thing also like exist for a while. So anyway, we can do it now, so it doesn't matter. G and X. Now we have a leaf that should be 1 by 1, or maybe not. In the X direction it is a little bit weird even now. So that is basically the leaf. And as for the node texture, I mean the node setup, that's it. You can also add a bit of translucency to it by adding another node over here, that is translucent node, this one, and this time giving more favor to the actual this one, BSDF I should say, and the normal should be given this one, maybe not the color or something like that. Well, whatever, just don't add it. Okay, so that's the leaf. And what we can also do is we can just make some copies of it, because it is not like anything system intensive, and this is where our hue saturation node that we added earlier comes into play. Just separate these out by pressing this number that comes on top of them. Now you should have multiple textures, like 4 or 5 different materials, and you can just change the hue value a tiny bit. Like this one can be 0.45, or maybe not that much, 0.85, yeah, 0.85. This one can be 0.51. This one can be around 0.495. So this should give a little bit of variation to each of the leaf, like that. And on top of that, what you can also do is deform these leaves, as they are only 4. points of geometry. You can do as you like with them, and I would highly suggest like creating 10 of these leaves and setting them up in a single collection. That way you would have a collection of leaves that you can spread on the ground or make a tree out of them. So, and with a lot of variation by using a single method. So that's for the leaves, and we can just select all of them, press M, new collection, and name it leaves. Okay, and as for the part where we need to actually make the plane, that is making the leaves fall, which was the actual purpose of this video, we will just hide the leaves, create another plane, name it this one emitter, emitor. I know the spelling is wrong, but I am too lazy to fix it right now, so just whatever. Create another particle system. For this we can go back to the layout mode, particle system, emitter, set it to emitter, not to here, like I did last time. Go to render, from path change it to collection, and collection select leaves, select whole collection, and you can change the settings later on. So if you want the animation to be like 250 frames, we don't want the emitter to start emitting the moment we start the animation. We want it to be like emitting out the leaves before we start the animation. So we should have it at around -100. In that way it is already emitting the leaves when we enter the scene. So the basic emitter is set for now. Now what we need to do is we need to go into force field weights and gravity to 0. This way these particles won't be falling downwards, and we can make them wherever we want to go. So add a force field, select G, and go to the first frame, and now they are all going upwards. Now if you make them go over here, they will still go upwards for some reason. You can rotate them a bit, so they are going over here. Take down the strength a bit, and now you have a shower of particles. Okay, set it to 50 and the lifetime to 150. This should create a rain of particles, and now we have a working particle system for our leaves. Okay, actually let's keep it over here. Okay, so now the particle system works, but as you can guess or see by this doesn't seem right. First of all, it is emitting out all the 5 particles as a single object. We don't want that. And secondly, the orientation is wrong. We want it to be randomized. So what we can do is, for rotation, you can click it and we can check randomize, and for the collection, whole collection, use count and select pick random, not the whole collection, because using the whole collection it will pick the whole collection and just start emitting the whole collection as is. In pick random, what it will do is instead of picking a single leaf like the first leaf, it will pick the whole collection, see the whole collection, and pick any object from it. So that is one problem solved. Then after that, object rotation, you can check that or not check that, and randomize the scale a bit, and increase the scale a bit. Okay, so that should fix our issue with that. And as for the velocity, like we don't want this particles to be we don't want these particles to be stationary, like they are not rotating at all at this moment. So what we'll do is we'll just add a tiny bit of z rotation to them, and a tiny bit of y. 1 1 and 1, maybe add 1 to all of them. Okay, and maybe randomize the velocity a bit, and that way you can create a particle system that is very vivid but still very low on CPU usage. So we will dial down the particle force field settings for now, and now we have a working particle simulation. You can play with the flow value, as it like creates a dampening effect for the particles. They dampen down a bit as if they are weighted or something. So we haven't actually looked at a system how it looks, so let's go and have a look at that. So as you can see, it looks pretty good. The number of particles is quite much, so we can turn that down a bit, like around 150. Maybe that's too low. No, that's perfect. So 150 is perfect. And to hide this plane that is emitting the particles, what we can do is close all of that. Viewport display, don't show the emitter, that is show emitter box. And the same in render, show emitter, you can uncheck this box, so the emitter will not be displayed. And if your PC is having problem with rendering like these particles, what you can do is set it to a lower number and then choose interpolation type and select 100 particles. Hello Mr. Particles, where did you go? Doesn't seem to be working, so maybe 2. Nope, the particles don't work. You cannot use that, just will have to rely on 150. And I think that 150 particles should be enough for any system to render. So as you can see, these do look pretty nice and they are pretty simple to set up. So I hope you learned something, and that's it for me, and bye bye.